words. Okay, let's do today's PowerPoint.
I have a question. Are you making those shirts for us?
These?
Yeah.
No, not with these lookers.
No, obviously not with those lookers. But
This is already picking size. Look at this. 7-6. Rabbi Yossi says it's 7. You guys should have been complaining about that. Okay. Here, so we start today's class with everybody's favorite Pesach song. Right. So the question is as follows. In the song of Dayenu, we list around over a dozen special things that Hashem did for us. And after each line, each stanza, we repeat Dayenu. If Hashem would have just done that for us alone, it would have been enough. Okay? But the question is, one of them is a little puzzling. Some of them, a few of them are, but we're going to focus on one of them. We say as follows. If Hashem would have brought us to Har Sinai and not given us the Torah, that would have been enough. That was a strange one. And that's what I want to explore today's class. I want to focus on this one. Like, really? This will be disappointing. We came to Har Sinai, we didn't even get the Torah. What else did we get there? What was the big deal of going to a mountain without getting the Torah? This is a strange line in Dayenu. The other ones make a lot of sense. For example, if he would have taken us out of Egypt and not split the sea, at least we're out of Egypt. We have what to say thank you for. Or if he would have taken us, the miracles of the desert, but not brought us into the Holy Land. Okay, but we're not slaves anymore. So each of them seems to be standalone appreciation. But one of them, this one is very strange. Taking us to Har Sinai without giving us the Torah? What's that all about? Tzvi Yitzchak, you with me?
yeah.
You understand the question?
Yeah. Is the Shama's hearing the question?
No, I'm hearing him.
The question's clear?
But the Mitzrayim one is even more puzzling, because if Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, but then didn't do the Yam Suf, so we would have been standing on a cliff with the Egyptians chasing us.
Well,
That would
we didn't have to do all the miracles. Each one is explained. He could have just made them not chase us. It didn't have to. It was mainly the revelation at Sinai,
Right.
at the splitting of the sea that we're really celebrating. But good point. Okay, so the question's clear. Now put this on a back burner.
No.
Hold this question. Now we have a familiar Gemara. Ezzy, translate.
I'll try.
Chad b'shava
Chad
ikva
b'shava ikva yarcha. The first of the week was the establishment of the month.
was Rosh Chodesh was on Sunday.
Chad
Chad b'shava.
b'shava lo yamar lahu v'lo midi mishum chulsha de orcha. And on the first of the week, he didn't tell them anything because he's tired from the traveling.
Then it says B'trei b'shava.
Today b'shava, on the second day of the week, Monday, amar lahu, he told to them, Atem tiyu li mamlachas kayan, and you should be for me, kings of Kona, of the priests.
Holy nation, the priests, yes.
A ministering priest.
Right. So the Gemara basically says the day they arrived was a rest day from the journey, right? Then, I'm afraid to move the projector, but you could see, day 2 was Malachas Kayanim. What was day 3? Hagbala. Day 4?
The separation.
Prisha. And the rest of, then 5 was actually Nasa V'Nishma, Karbanis. You didn't learn about it in the Gemara, but we might do it in another class, the actual a lot more details of each day. But first we're going to focus on one specific event. And that is, okay, first you see the two opinions. Just if you're having trouble with Rabbi Yossi and the rabbis, here's the calendar according to them. Everyone agrees Matan Torah was Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh is when they arrived. So there was this day of silence, right? Deafening silence, actually. Malachas Kayanim, Hagbala, Prisha. According to Rabbi Yossi, you see the Rabbana has 2 days Prisha. And
They all hold the same order and everything.
yeah, it's just a day off. So exactly. Now, 2 Jews. Now here's the question. Remember this Ran? We learned about it by Yeshiva Torah Ohr classes.
No.
The Ran says, he brings a medrash. We don't have this medrash, but the Ran quotes it. So the Ran had it, and everyone quotes this Ran. It's a very famous idea. We mentioned it for sure.
Oh, they're counting down.
Yeah, of Agada Gam Kenam. In Agada, meaning the medrash, it says, V'shasha Amalem Moshe. When Moshe told the Jews in Egypt that you're going to serve Hashem on the mountain, they were so excited. When is this service, this relationship with Hashem, this encounter, when is it going to happen? At the conclusion of 50 days. So all the Jews were counting. This is again in Egypt, before they were given the mitzvah Yeshiva Torah Ohr, just like when you count towards something exciting. You count the days it's coming because they were told it's going to be in 50 days. You can't cover chacham this assignment. This is why the rabbis, establish this assignment even as a rabbinic mitzvah, even when there's no Beis Hamikdash. This is the famous medrash. So, 1 second, they were counting, and they were excited about it. That's why they were counting, right? So it's very, very strange to understand. Weren't they counting the days out of anticipation? They finally arrived at the designated place, and then nothing happens. They're like, we're too tired. Wouldn't it be the most? Usually, when you're so excited, you finally arrive, you get a burst of energy. They couldn't do Mamlachas Kohanim that day. They couldn't be told what they had the next day. There must be something deeper over here. You understand the question? The second question we're asking? What do you mean they were tired the first day? They were counting towards this. They finally arrived. They couldn't be told a little bit about whatever they were told the next day. Amlachas Kohanim, such a big deal that they could have a special relationship with Hashem.
But it seems like from the Gemara that Moshe is the one that gave the he didn't tell them anything because they were tired.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
They weren't demanding it. We just come in and Pesach Sheni. They complain. The Jews didn't beg for something. It looks like
It's 6 more days.
it looks like they also comply. They also, we're exhausted, so let's just whatever. We'll find out what's next. It doesn't look like they were eagerly anticipating something. That's what you would expect when they finally arrive. There would be a little more excitement. Just casually, it says they were just tired the first day, so it was a rest day, and they started the next day to prepare for Matan Torah. It's a little bit strange. This is the next question. The question gets even stronger when we take into account the following 3 points. You ready? Number 1, how much did they really travel from Refidim to Har Sinai? How far was it? The Ramban says in Bishalach, Refidim el Chodev k'mahalich parsa e parsais. It's like a parsa, which is like 4 meal or 2. And they spent a few days doing it. It wasn't a big trip at all. It's a very small amount. This is a parsa is like a few times 18 minutes. That's like an hour, maybe 2 hours of parsais, right?
So 2 days they traveled 2 hours.
Well, we'll see. It wasn't a long. Again, it was a big family thing. It was walking, but still, it's not a major thing. They're so exhausted. Look what it says. Point number 2. It says the Ananim Ekaved ve'echad, one of the clouds mahalech lifneim would go in front of them. Kol hanamach makbir. Any pits, any indentations in the ground, it would make it smooth. It would lift it up. Kol hagavoya minamichu. It would anything that was bumps. The travel wasn't just short, close. It was comfortable. There was no like potholes and bumps and hills and ditches. Everything was made nice and smooth. The sight of nechashim v'akravim, there wasn't no trauma from these critters, from snakes and scorpions. And it was even clean. It would be a nice, honorable pathway for them. There was one cloud that went ahead of them. This is what the Tanchuma says in Bishalach when it talks about the clouds of glory. So it was a short trip, and it wasn't such a stressful trip. It wasn't like climbing up cliffs and hills and stuff. None of that, or down anything. Point number 3. Okay, what was that? They arrived on Sunday or Monday, right? That's the debate. Either they arrived on a Sunday or a Monday. But they already received the mitzvah of
Were they
Shabbos.
traveling on Shabbos?
Wait, no, they didn't, because they received Shabbos and Mara, which is a stop before Refidim. So how much tired could they have been? They for sure had a rest day, either the day before or 2 days before. So it couldn't be more than a day of traveling.
That was a machlekes whether they traveled
Right.
on Shabbos.
No, but Shabbos, it says, Rashi says they got it already a few days before. They got a few weeks before, at Mara, a few stops before. At Mara was the stop of the bitter waters. So it's these 3 points make the question much stronger, right? Is everyone with me? Yosef in the back?
Yes.
How could we just take that? They were so tired the first day. All the excitement vanishes, and like as if they were not excited. And these 3 points, it wasn't nothing to be tired about. It was a very short trip. It was a very comfortable trip, and they just had a rest day the day before because it's Rashi's mentions that they already received the mitzvah of Shabbos in a place called Mara. Mara was an earlier stop. before Rephidim. That was where the waters complained about the bitter waters, which is mentioned earlier. So the questions are clear?
Quite clear.
Okay. So here's the story.
Diamond.
Here's the thing. There's different kinds of journeys. There's traveling by car, by camel, by plane, by train, right? By feet, by city bus, by trains. There's all different kinds of journeys. And then there's traveling where really count, real journeys. Those are just physical journeys, going from point A to point B, right? Point B to point A if you want to go backwards. But that's just locomotion, right? You're going forward. Then there's real traveling. Real traveling is growing, going forward, working on yourself, becoming a better person. This is a journey of life. We move around also physically, geographically, but the main traveling that counts is growth, right? It's when this is why a person's called a mahalech. The definition of a human, of a person, is a mahalech, as opposed to angels are called oimdim. A person has to always be traveling. As a human being, you have to always be traveling, progressing in your growth. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's always linear, smoothly upwards. Part of growing is stumbling sometimes, but in general, we're described as creatures who have the ability and we have the obligation to be growing, to be constantly traveling and going forward. Real traveling is we work on ourselves. They were also traveling. As they were traveling a few stops, these 7 weeks, they were traveling from Egypt to get to Torah. It says they went on the 49 days. They went up 49 levels from the 49 levels of impurity, which they were the lowest rung of spiritual contamination when they were in Egypt. Now they ascended step by step. They were working on themselves and they were traveling every single day spiritually, as they did a few stops also physically. This is basics of what was going on. The most important event, they were going to have this encounter with Hashem. They were going to have this relationship with Hashem that was going to start. There was a wedding, right? And everything that came with it, the whole purpose of creation, the mission of Dina B'Tachtainim, of transforming this world, which started then. Everything was, they were preparing for this, for 49 days. There's also kind of traveling. There's intellectual growth. There's emotional growth. All these are much deeper kinds of progress. Emunah is in your faith, in your connection to Hashem, and how well you really live it. In general, our relationship with Hashem has to be expressing this theme of constantly growing and becoming better. So every day was a major journey of spiritual growth. But this day, Rosh Chodesh, was an exceptionally exhausting one. You hear? This is the key. They were working on themselves spiritually every single day. And they were growing major leaps and bounds. They were getting more and more ready for Matan Torah. But something happened that day. That was the day they arrived at Sinai. That says Moshe didn't do anything else. Why? Because they were exhausted from the traveling. What?
Bris Milah.
No. Good try. That was actually later. Most of them did it actually earlier. Most of them did it earlier.
Right? So
they did it before the Korban Pesach, Ezzy. That's something else. There was a later, before they went into Eretz Yisrael again. But what happened the day they arrived?
They're counting the Sphira Yesoid and Malchus Yesoid or something.
Very good, but what else?
It was a Rosh Chodesh by day, so they're
Rosh Chodesh. It was a Rosh Chodesh for bringing. Okay, here's if you actually look up the verse, anyone brought the papers? Does it have it there? Yeah, look at verse base. They traveled the day Vayavayu Midbar Sinai. This is elaborating on verse Aleph. Verse Aleph says on the 3rd month, that day they arrived at Sinai. Verse Beis expands this a little bit. They had actually left from the Fidim and they came to Midbar Sinai. They encamped in the desert, in the wilderness. That's what happened when they arrived. and they camped there at the mountain. You guys see what's going on over here? And the Jews camped there by the mountain. Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged Ahar, in the singular. Vayichan Sham Yisrael. This is a major, major accomplishment. It's actually unduplicated ever in history. It says there was a special unity that was achieved this day amongst the Jews. It says, why does it say Vayichan Sham Yisrael? They came like with one in singular. Vayichan Sham. It's talking about the Jewish people. And it says it in the singular. They were like one man with one heart. That's what happened the day they came. Unified in action and feelings. This is not just a big achievement, it's almost miraculous, because Ein Deasei and Shavis, even in general, according to nature, people are different, and their perspectives are different. They can't be unified in such an extreme way. They actually all shared everything, emotionally, intellect, perspective, everything. They became like one person with one soul, one heart, one body. The Jews achieved a tremendous level of unity. Okay, let me elaborate a little more. And we'll get more about this later, but this was not just a nice spiritual accomplishment that they could bring about. This is actually very connected to the receiving of the Torah. This is a major milestone. This is like, as they arrived at Sinai, the actual location, this is necessary and a major, major part of the preparation for receiving the Torah, like we'll see soon. So now,
Did they receive the Torah that?
what was the secret? How did they achieve this unity? How did it get there? It's not easy to totally be united on every level. What's the secret? What does it say? Where does it say they camped? Vayichan Sham Yisrael. They camped in the singular. What's the next words? Vayichan Sham Yisrael. Neged Ahar. Opposite the mountain.
Opposite the ego.
What? No, the opposite. The Har. They learned. They achieved from. They learned from Har Sinai. What was Har Sinai? Remember, it's all the big mountains wanted to get the Torah on them, but Hashem chose Har Sinai because of its bittul, right? It says it represents bittul, that healthy balance, we said, of not being obsessed with yourself, but having that pride. We had a whole class about that. So they achieved it when they got to Har Sinai, when they saw the mountain that Hashem is selecting, they understood its implications and the message and the value of bittul. Bittul is what enabled them. That's why it says like Amrulu v'loy midi. This could also be an expression of this bittul, this nullification of your ego. There was no speeches. They reached a level of they transcended their ego, their selfishness, their self-obsession, their natural self-centeredness, and they were able to make themselves receptacles for the divine, to actually experience the revelation of Hashem and the bond that started to be revealed from that. To achieve this total oneness between the lowest simple Jew and Moshe Rabbeinu, they had to reveal their essential Jewish core. On all other levels, besides our essential Jewish core, there's differences. We have emotional difference, experiences of how we love Torah and love a Jew and love Hashem and everything. How we understand, there's very big differences. How we do mitzvahs and fulfill them. And every level, there's differences. People do things a little different. But when it comes to the core, this could only be revealed and expressed through bittul. This was a crucial preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah. And this is also why the first thing you teach a Jewish child when he learns how to talk, what is it? No, one more thing first. There's a level of our bond with Hashem that is inheritance. Inheritance means you didn't do nothing. It's not about anything you did. It's who you are. You get. That's how inheritance works. It's not because of your learning. Even a fetus inherits, halachically. It's not even born, because their core, their essence is one with the other, and therefore they have this bond that has nothing to do with their achievements, their accomplishments, their emotional capacity and abilities. They're one. This is the first thing you have to teach a Jewish child, because this concept that there's, and this is what was accomplished Matan Torah. Another deeper translation for Yeshiva Torah Ohr is They were. It's not just they were exhausted from this spiritual accomplishment, but it also can mean Chosha de Orcha mean they were in a great state of bittul. Chosha could also mean that because of the bittul of the travel, of that great spiritual journey they did that day. Rosh Chodesh, the day they arrived at Sinai, that unity was based on bittul. If you don't have bittul, you can't really connect and get respect and get along with others because they're competition. They take away your ear or your food or your space somehow, right? It's only bittul that enables us to really to reveal our core how we really want. In other words, the first day of arrival was about preparing to connect to Hashem Himself. The Nisan Atayr. There's two parts of Shuas, of Matan Torah. There's the relationship with Hashem, and then there's the receiving the actual Torah, all the information. The rest of the days were preparation to receive the knowledge of Torah. So they had all these official steps. They were told, do this, don't do this, separate there, work on you. They were told the information to prepare for the information component of Matan Torah. But the main part of Torah, of the event of Matan Torah, which was the connection with Hashem, that was when did they prepare for that and how? The first day when they arrived. That was a day of bittul. Chosha de Orcha, unity, that expressed this. Unity is synonymous with bittul. Real unity could only be with bittul. They had to nullify themselves to be able to become one with Hashem. The connection with Hashem was the entire novelty of Matan Torah. That's the main thing. The first day was the main prep. You thought it was a quiet day, but it was actually the main day. Why? All the learning they did before. They had learning Torah before. They had mitzvahs before. Where do we have learning Torah before? It says Noach learned Torah. Remember the Rashi says he knew the treif animals, right? Shem Ve'aver's yeshiva is mentioned. The Avos, it says they always had. By Yosef, it says he was learning Torah with Yaakov. These are all mentioned in Pshuta Shel Mikra in Rashi's interpretation on the verses. He mentions all these. That means on the literal level, they were constantly learning Torah. Levi says Shevet Levi was learning even in Egypt. So the information they had access to somehow prophetically, awareness, they even fulfilling the mitzvahs in some kind of sense before. But what changed? What was the real novelty of Matan Torah? Is the revelation of Hashem and they bond with the Nisan Torah, the author of the Torah. And that's why the first day when they came, when they prepared for that part of it, that was a day of bittul. It wasn't, they were not like, oh, we came and then they lost all their excitement. On the contrary, they were so excited they achieved the greatest of all, that bittul, which is so special. And this also, of course, answers the line in Har Sinai, in Dayenu. Hashem would have brought us to Har Sinai and not given us the Torah. That wouldn't have been enough. Why? We did achieve something major by Matan Torah, by Har Sinai, without giving the Torah. We achieved this unity, and we transcended our egos. That's tremendous value. Before, right? We asked, really? So this is the Hasidic perspective, the emphasis of this day. The world a lot will, they'll talk about how we got the Torah. What's the Hasidus take on that? We actually got the Nisan Torah. We entered into a relationship with Hashem. That's the main thing that happened on Shavuos. That we said that we're on this holiday. Okay. I'm gonna stop we're gonna stop here for now.